It is Friday, 1 June. Yeah. 1 June 2018. Day of prep. This is a video response to a video most of y'all probably didn't see because it was on Patreon, not YouTube. But it's a video response to Viking Preparedness, Pastor Joe and Sister Kate being awesome on their front porch. I love them, they're wonderful. Responding to an email that somebody sent them in Canada. Sounds like a couple of youngsters. And this is also a completely unsolicited response, I'll add. But sounds like two young kids from Canada living in the big city, working their corporate jobs. Holy cow, that was a serious hole. Good thing Tuesday we're getting a new front end and new tires on this old truck. That's cool. So they're finally coming out of Hurt My People, right? They're getting out into the wilderness. And they bought a piece of land. It's heavily treed. And they, per the message that they sent Pastor Joe, have some pretty ambitious goals for working this piece of land. I believe they said they were going to try and make 3 one-week trips to the land in a year. And that their first week was going to involve clearing a place to park the vehicles and a campsite. It's fully treed, and a campsite, and erecting a temporary structure and a tarp for rainwater catchment, and I believe starting a garden area, and wood chips for a garden area, week 1. Now, I don't know what their definition of heavily treed is. This is what got me going, okay? I try not to talk about things that I don't know about. I know a lot about trees, and a lot about clearing land. That was the first real job I ever had, aside from indentured servitude for my dad, doing power construction and baling hay and doing farm chores and all of that. I've cut a lot of trees, and I pushed a lot of trees over with a dozer, which is what Pastor Joe and Sister Kate were saying, is if you think you're going to go out there and clear trees with a chainsaw, now you can do it, but understand this, you're going to have stumpage everywhere. And it's a lot harder to get the root ball out of the ground if you don't have the trunk still attached to the root ball for leverage. You can take a dozer blade or even a track hoe and push the tree over. It'll tear the root ball up out of the ground. Done. Then you take a saw and you cut the root ball off of the tree, limb the tree out, you got logs. You skid the logs out. You can leave the tops for slash or pull them out and chip them. For the wood chips that you want for your garden. It's all a lot of work though. There's a very good reason most people pay other people to do this. It's a lot of work. And not only is it labor intensive, it's equipment intensive. And I'm not saying this to scare anybody off. I'm saying this because I preach daily that you be completely realistic with your capabilities. People get killed regularly operating chainsaws in the woods. Not occasionally, regularly. It's within the top 3, logging is within the top 3 or 5 deadliest jobs in the United States of America every year. And these are guys that do it every day. I know because I was one of them. I owned a company doing it. I had 38 employees. It was kind of my gig for a while. So, anyway, you can do it, but you need to be very careful doing it. You need to have some type of expertise felling trees. I mean, you could get a barber chair situation, widowmakers, deadwood. I mean, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And you can do everything right, and the tree doesn't cooperate and still causes a very dangerous situation. So you're better off renting a piece of equipment or paying a guy to do it, to just knock the trees over and push them out of the way. Then you have a firewood pile. Get in there with your saw, limb it out, buck the logs up. Bucking is cross-cutting, cut them to 16-inch length or 18-inch length or 20-inch length, whatever your wood stove's going to be. Brief brief recommendation there. Shorter wood fits in a longer firebox. Longer wood does not fit in a shorter firebox. I used to cut all my firewood at 16 inches. And I'd have people tell me, oh yeah, my stove will fit 16 inches. No, it's 15 and a half because you got a tiny little wood stove. Won't fit 16 inches. I can put 16-inch wood in a 24-inch firebox, no problem. But I can't put 24-inch firewood in a 16-inch firebox. So I like 16 inches. And I cut 2 lengths. Short wood was 12 inches. 4 rows, so that I had 4 foot wide that were 8 foot long and 4 foot high, makes a cord of wood. A cord of wood is 128 cubic feet. That's what it adds up to. So 12 inch was 4 rows, 4 foot high, 8 foot long. 16 inch, because 3 times 16 is 48. 16 inches, 3 rows that are 4 foot high, 8 foot long. That makes a cord of wood. A rick of wood is not an officially recognized unit of measurement, just so everybody's aware. There is no rick of wood. A rick of wood is subjective, not objective. So, good. We ranted briefly about that. But if you're going to clear land, and you're going to clear land large enough to drive your cars in, park your cars, and erect a temporary campsite, I could do it, me and a couple of guys, with a John Deere 650 dozer with a hydraulic winch on the back and a couple of steel 660 Magnums or a 460. Yeah, we could do it, no problem. I don't believe that they are planning on having those luxuries, so I highly question that. And they had lots of other ambitions for week 1, like getting a bunch of wood chips in their car. They don't have a pickup truck, they have a car. Getting a bunch of wood chips somehow and spreading them for a future garden area and erecting this temporary shelter, which, as Pastor Joe rightly pointed out, Fauch-o-matic, which I didn't know PJ followed Fauch. I like Fauch quite a bit. But as he says, temporary is permanent, and he's right. Because you're going to learn to live with it, whatever it is. Whatever you build day 1, yeah, it's less than ideal, but you learn to live with it. So temporary is permanent. Might as well do it right the first time. My old man had a plaque that hung in his office, and he used to point at it all the time. It got to the point where he didn't even need to say words. He just pointed at the plaque. If you can't find the time to do it right, when are you going to find the time to do it over? That convicted the piss out of me. Always has, always will. If you can't find the time to do it right, when are you going to find the time to do it over? That's a big one in my life. So they're going to erect a temporary subpar structure, sounded like, to facilitate rain catchment, and on and on and on. And I don't mean to pee in this couple's Cheerios, right? That's not what I'm trying to do. I like to inspire people and motivate people, not tell them all the reasons why they can't do what they want to do. But I also just spray truth everywhere as I understand it. I'm a man in my mid-30s who has been doing physical labor full-time, a minimum of full-time, since I was 15 years old. I grew up on a farm. I threw 90-pound hay bales 18 feet into the air, right? I played football, wrestled, I've been trained, I've done all kinds of things. Aikido, Jiu-Jitsu, Krav Maga, all these different things, right? Conditioned my body, worked in a gym. I mean, like, physically went to the gym. I was not paid to be there, but conditioned my body in a gym, conditioned my body in the woods, carried a chainsaw around. My go-to chainsaw is a Steel 066 Magnum bored out, making 8.5 horsepower, running a 32-inch bar, full chisel, not skip chisel. And it'll cut anything I want it to. And it weighs as much as 2 cinder blocks, and I can carry that thing 12 hours a day, no problem. I've done all of it. All of it. I used to split 2 cords of wood by hand every day to cool off at the end of the day. So I'm telling you, based upon my capabilities, their aspirations in a week's time are unsustainable. And what I see or what I hear in their aspirations are 2 city kids that are being completely idealistic about a situation they know very little about. So my recommendation to them and anybody like them would be go and do. I know, you're mind blown. Holy cow, he said it again. Go and do. Just get out onto the land first, right? Good. Now you're onto the land. Now you can start figuring out, what do we do? How do we do it? What's it going to look like? I think it would probably take you a week of hard work by hand, especially 2 people that aren't used to doing hard work by hand in the woods. A week to, in a heavily wooded area. When I say heavily wooded, I'm talking 80% plus coverage. Now, their opinion of what's heavily wooded may be different than mine. But in a heavily wooded area, a week of handwork to clear a spot to get your vehicles off of the road and get into where you can erect a temporary structure. That's week 1, is just clearing land. Just clearing land is week 1. So, as always, I encourage you guys to go forth and do, but also be completely realistic about what your capabilities are. And that would be my advice to these people. So, I'm going to post this video probably Sunday evening when I get back to the land of milk and Wi-Fi. And I'll link it to Pastor Joe's video and Patreon in the comments. And maybe somebody can get this video to that couple if you think this is applicable advice. A rule of thumb that has served me well in my life is under promise and over deliver, not the other way around. And I build as much wiggle room as possible into the things that I need to do, so that not if, but when things go off track, I'm not scrambling to make up time. And I'm not having to constantly adjust and manage expectations of the people that I'm working with or working for. If you hired me to do a job, and I told you it's going to take 5 days to do it, and I get it done in 3, I'm a hero. If you hire me to do a job and I tell you it's going to take 2 days, and it takes 3, I'm a jerk. You see the point? That's what I mean by managing expectations and building wiggle room into your systems and into your expectations. What am I going to do today? Well, if you have 10 things that you need to get done, prioritize the top 3, do all 3 of those, and you got 4 hours left in your day, you're ahead of the game. So that's my advice to them, is be really realistic. If you know nothing about the situation you're getting into, and I applaud you for reaching out for advice. I mean, not to me. I don't know who you are. You never asked me. But hopefully this will help you. But you reached out to Pastor Joe and Sister Kate, and I think that's a couple of really good people to ask for advice. I have on several occasions. So good on you for asking for advice, but be extremely realistic about what your capabilities are actually, right? Under promise, over deliver. If you're going to allot a week for you to make space to get your car off of the road and onto your property, and on day 2, you're able to put your car in drive and drive right in there, you're 3 days ahead of the game, brother. That's a victory. If you allot 1 day and it takes you 5, you're going to feel miserable the entire time. Anxious, uptight, upset, tightly wound. That's not good for you. See, it makes me think briefly, and then I'll get off of here. The difference, there's many differences between the Western philosophy and Eastern philosophy of hand-to-hand combat and fighting. But in the Western philosophy, we tend to bunch up our muscles really, really tight and then swing as hard as we can. And the Eastern philosophy is more of a loose muscle moves faster. And so you're basically swinging your arm. If I was going to punch you, I would swing my arm toward you, and just at the last minute, I would clench and tense up and then give you that final little push, you know, from the tips of my toes and my ankles and arching my feet and bending my knees and swiveling my hips and scooting my ass a little bit to the side and rotating my hips and throwing my shoulders and locking my elbow and all of that, like all that split second movement translates into a whole lot of force. But I got there quicker because my muscles weren't tense. I was nice and loose as I was throwing that punch, and 3 inches before I make contact, then I tense up and then I push with everything I've got. So it makes you fast and powerful. So in our Western philosophy, we tend to tense up and go hard. And it has its advantages. But sometimes it's better to just be loose. Give yourself a little bit of time. When you're loose, you actually tend to get more stuff done than if you're super tense. You might hit one thing real hard and then you're done. Right? You wore out. You threw that one punch. It's the best punch you have, and it's over. Well, you can throw 50 punches nice and loose, no problem. So I would recommend just be loose, manage your expectations, be easy about it, and good on you. You got out of the city. You're getting out of the city. Good on you. Congratulations. That's awesome. That's awesome. Now go forth and do, and be realistic about it with a smile on your face the whole time, because you were so far ahead of so many people. And it's going to be work, but it's going to be your work on your land. And that's incredible. So that's my thoughts on that. I hope it's helpful. It's probably not, but I hope it is. And shalom and blessings, y'all. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.